Hello and welcome to this video on caring for your Christmas bonsai. Many trees are gifted during the holidays. Many are given with no thought to stock, source or skill and the knowledge of the recipient. This is intended to help those individuals. You have received your gift. This box is wrapped and mysterious. On opening it, green leaves are seen and you realize it is a bonsai. Hopefully the leaves are green and hydrated, and, if possible and not completely socially unacceptable, ask how long it has been inside. Dry, wrinkled, curled, and browning leaves are a bad sign, but not necessarily the only measurement. This is the first sign of distress on getting the specimen and one that is a fair guide on what you need to do next. Check the soil in the top of the pot. Is it slightly damp? Have grains of soil stuck to your finger? If not, this is a sign of dehydration. Whilst you are there, check if the roots are present on the surface or as a solid mass underneath. These are indications of plant being pot-bound. Is the tree becoming overgrown? Will you need to prune or wire it? Do you know the tree's history, or in the case of older, more prestigious specimens, the provenance? This is important when it comes to fertilizing, repotting, and root pruning. Next, is there a suitable place for storing your tree, both inside and outside? And finally, do you have access to the right resources, books, videos, and websites? The following things are important to care for your bonsai properly. Watering. This is one of the greatest misconceptions in bonsai, and many bonsai seem to die from overwatering. The mistake made is that such a small pot cannot hold enough water, and people assume that withholding water is the means by which a tree is stunted. Therefore, a small pot not holding a great deal of water is ideal. However, the other side of this equation is that the tree requires water in order to grow, and so it is generally true that the small pot is intended to retain only a small amount of water, more so because the pot does not need to hold a great deal of water for the tree to survive. What is important to know here is that the tree's roots attract the water around them, and this creates a safe harbor of sorts, where the plant can draw out its needs in the form of water. This means it does not need to have a constant supply coming in. Simply misting a tree daily during spring and autumn will meet most of the daily needs of watering. Once a week, it will need to be watered with a hose or a watering can to top up the pot. This will finish meeting the needs of the plant. To check if the plant needs water, the first and simplest method is to put your finger into the pot, up to the first knuckle. If soil grains stick to your finger, it is fine. The seasonal extremes of summer and winter are significantly different though. High heat of 30 degrees centigrade requires daily watering, and possibly watering more than once a day with a large amount. The pot itself may need to be immersed in water to completely saturate the potting mix and pot to prevent it from drying out. In winter, the exact opposite is true. The pot should be watered once a week, if that. The best approach is to check for dryness and then spray it with a mist of water. Next is the pot and soil. The pot and soil are perhaps one of the most immediate problems that come about with recently purchased bonsai. Most bought plants will come in a pot with modest potting mix. They also have a bad habit in industrial suppliers of bonsai trees in adding a compacted layer of gravel to the top of each pot. This keeps the tree in place, but also makes watering and maintenance impossible. It is best to remove this layer and check on the plant. Is it pot-bound? Dry? Have they thrown together waste material as potting mix? These will need to be looked at and corrected. More often than not, just removing the top layer of compacted gravel and giving it a decent water is enough. However, the tree may need to be repotted and other work done. Next is pruning. The tree is watered and apparently healthy. What about the structure? Is it a twig with leaves or a fully fledged specimen someone put life and love into for years? Either way, it will likely require some attention for a generic gift tree. This may be pinching out leaf nodes, pruning entire branches, where it has been left to grow wild, or branches have died off while it is on the shelf in the nursery. Remove anything unwanted now. This will reduce stress on the tree and give it a better chance of recovery. Further, it will enable it to redirect those resources into the desired growth. The next step is something people often have some trepidation with, and rightly so: wiring. In this case, it is probably referring to the removing of wire and examining the tree for damage. Trees held in nurseries often get ignored. This leads to wire digging into the tree and damaging it beyond recovery. Other times, it is just damaging a branch or two. This can vary wildly between locations, specimens, and sources. When you first get your tree, take a look over it for wire, especially old wire. Some stock has been ignored for so long that it has begun to cut into the tree. This can sometimes get so bad that the wire has been grown over. Depending upon the age and location, this can be quite obvious. Donut-like rings around the trunk are a good example. Remove any accessible wire that has been able to cut into or constrict on the branches. If there is wire but loose, remove it. It will not perform its function when loose. Finally, looking at your tree, and if there is no wire on it at all, or if you need to work on the shape, you should begin to apply wire to it. Rewire your tree to begin forming the desired design, or to maintain the current design. Fertilizing. Hopefully the tree has come with information, in particular the date it was potted and when it was fertilized. Depending on your hemisphere, this will either necessitate fertilizing or holding it until spring. If you do not have the details, use a very weak sea salt type product and dilute this to 1/10 of the prescribed rate. This will be used on the tree once every 2 weeks throughout its growing period. Be careful not to use a fertilizer high in nitrogen at this point, as it may burn the roots of your bonsai tree. Next is repotting. This is the worst case scenario for your tree, and the entire plant has arrived in a pot-bound state in poor mix and is dry. This requires repotting and reworking, and is something of an emergency. Hopefully it will live. Remove the tree and detangle the roots as best you can. Put a wire through the holes in your pot with loose ends pointing up. Add a layer of potting mix. Now take your tree and chop off the lower half of the root mass. Cut off any solid roots that are in there. This should leave a fine tangle of roots that have no solid or large roots present. Place this on the mix in your pot, then put a layer of potting mix over this. Now cross the wires over the plant and tie them together. Tighten this wire until it is holding the plant firmly down in the pot. Fill the remaining space in the pot with mix. Poke this with a skewer or chopstick until the spare space is all filled with potting mix. Top this up as needed as you go through the process. Water it well with a sea salt type fertilizer as described, and this will encourage root growth. Hopefully with your tree repotted, the roots detangled, and the work you've done already to the branches, it will have an opportunity to recover and grow quite well. Root pruning. Root pruning was just mentioned, but key to this process is the retention of fine structured roots, disposing of large roots and encouraging more fine growth. These small roots feed and water the plant. The large roots should hold it in place, which is unnecessary in bonsai as a general rule. Therefore, keeping what is needed and getting rid of the rest is important. By doing so, room is made available for more feeder roots and nutritious potting mix. This ensures better growth and appearance. It also increases the time between repotting. The final key to your new tree and keeping it alive and healthy is storage. This is the last thing that can be done to and for the tree that you have received. Most plants need at least some light. Many are simply not indoor plants and can exist inside away from natural light for short stints. Think of this as a 2-day inside and 5-day outside process. Once you have your prized specimen moved, it needs morning light. Morning light as it is less harsh on the plant, less heat and probability of being burnt. Normally, a north-facing wall is good. Consider the following diagrams, one west-facing and the other north. The north has less direct light and heat. This leads to less dehydration and burning. Further to positioning is cover. Some cover is needed if frost occurs in your area. This can often be part of the same structure that provides light protection like a patio. This will protect juvenile leaf buds or branches from frost damage. Finally, you need to be able to access various resources that are on the internet. These include videos and websites, but it is also useful to have reference books either on hand, borrowed from a library, or purchased from second-hand shops. Hopefully you've been given a nice, simple tree that you can learn from and train for years. but in case that specimen is in poor shape. Hopefully this has been of help to you. Thank you for watching this video. Please post any comments, questions or suggestions below.